My grandmother's house on Tilbury Lane smelled like cardamom and old cedar, and for the first 26 years of my life, that smell meant I was home. Nana Celestine had built everything in that house by hand, practically. The herb garden along the eastern fence, the lace curtains she'd sewn herself panel by panel, the kitchen tiles she'd painted one summer with my cousin Renata and me, both of us 8 years old and drunk on the freedom of being allowed to use real paint. Renata pressed her palm into the yellow glaze and laughed so hard she fell off the step stool, and I remember thinking I had never loved anyone so completely. We grew up like sisters, she and I. Our mothers were twins, our fathers were best friends, and Renata was the person I called first after every good thing and every bad thing that ever happened to me. When I got into my graduate program in Cape Town, it was Renata who screamed louder than I did. When her engagement fell apart the following spring, I drove 4 hours in a single night to sit with her on her bathroom floor. That was who we were to each other. The house on Tilbury Lane was where we always ended up, eventually. Nana's kitchen, Nana's cardamom tea, Nana setting her soft hands on both our heads like she was blessing us. I remember one evening, maybe 3 months before everything, Renata walking through the rooms with a slow, measuring kind of attention that I found sweet at the time. I thought she was being nostalgic. She had always been sentimental about that house. I was in Cape Town when Nana's kidneys began failing. I didn't hesitate. I packed 2 bags, arranged an emergency leave from my research position, and flew to Harare to take care of her. Renata was supposed to come the following month. She had a work commitment she couldn't move, she said, and I understood completely. I told her not to worry. I told her I had everything handled. The first strange thing was the phone call that dropped. I'd been staying with Nana for about 6 weeks, and Renata called one Thursday evening, which wasn't unusual, but something in her voice had a tightness I couldn't place. I asked her how she was, and she said fine, just fine, and then the line went strange and she said she had to go. It was nothing. It was barely a moment. But I lay in the narrow guest bed that night and felt something cold move through me that I could not explain, some animal awareness that had no evidence to attach itself to. I pushed it down. Nana needed me present, and I was not going to waste my attention on a mood. 2 weeks later, a neighbor called Nana's landline and asked to speak to me. Mrs. Dlamini from 3 doors down, a woman I had known my entire life, who paused for just a half-second too long when I answered, and then said, very carefully, that she was calling to check in on Celestine. When I thanked her and said Nana was resting, Mrs. Dlamini said, of course, and then, almost as an afterthought, I saw someone at the house last week, at Tilbury Lane. I thought it might have been you. I told her it must have been a misunderstanding. The house was empty. I laughed a little. She did not laugh back. That half-second before she hung up lived inside me like a splinter for the next 4 days. I did not call Renata. That was deliberate. I opened my laptop instead, and I started quietly, without urgency, looking. The property registry for Tilbury Lane was publicly accessible. I had never had reason to check it before. I sat with Nana sleeping 6 feet away, and I typed my grandmother's address into the search field with hands that I commanded to stay steady, and I waited for the page to load. The listed owner had not changed. Not yet, I exhaled. I told myself I was paranoid, but I kept looking, because something in me would not stop. I found a property listing site, the kind that aggregates sold data, and I searched the address again, and this time I found a listing that had been active for 11 days and marked as sale pending. The photographs were of the interior of my grandmother's house. Nana's lace curtains. The kitchen tiles Renata and I had painted when we were 8. The herb garden along the eastern fence. I was sitting so still that Nana stirred and asked if I was cold, and I told her no, sweetheart, go back to sleep, and my voice did not shake at all. I needed to understand the mechanism, so I kept going, and what I found was this. Renata had obtained a power of attorney over Nana's estate 14 months earlier, during a period when Nana's cognition had dipped briefly, and she had signed several documents she later couldn't recall. The sale had been executed under that authority. The buyer was a property development company. The closing date was in 19 days. The commission had been split. Renata's account, I would discover later, had received a transfer of $43,000 the previous week. I closed my laptop. I looked at my grandmother sleeping. The betrayal was worse than anything I could have invented, because Renata had not acted in a moment of weakness or desperation. She had planned this for over a year, while I sat in that kitchen drinking cardamom tea and believing we were family. I did not cry. I want to be clear about that. Something in me went very quiet, the way a room goes quiet when all the heat leaves it. And in that quietness, I became extremely precise. I was not going to confront Renata. I was not going to warn her. I was going to let her believe for exactly as long as it served me that I knew nothing. And I was going to dismantle everything she had built with the same patience she had used to build it. I had 19 days before that closing date, and I used every one of them. My first call was to a property attorney in Harare named Advocate Sibanda, who specialized in contested estate transfers. My second call was to the physician managing Nana's care, who confirmed in writing that Nana's cognitive state at the time the power of attorney was signed had been significantly compromised. The power of attorney, Advocate Sibanda told me, was almost certainly invalid. We filed an emergency injunction that froze the sale with 4 days to spare. The development company threatened to sue. We let them threaten. The title never transferred. Then I made the other calls. Renata worked in financial compliance. She had built her professional reputation on being trustworthy with other people's assets. I contacted her firm's ethics board with documentation. I contacted the Law Society because the attorney who'd drawn up that power of attorney had his own obligations he had failed. I sent everything, every transfer record, every timestamp, every photograph of those documents, to every relevant body in order, methodically, without anger. Renata lost her position before she understood what was happening to her. The professional censure followed. She has never worked in that field again. I am writing this from a rented flat in Cape Town with the windows open, the smell of the ocean coming in off the Atlantic. Nana's lace curtain folded in my suitcase, because I took it the day we got the house back. I drink my tea in the mornings, and I watch the light change on the water, and I feel nothing about Renata except a mild, clean indifference that I think is the most honest form of contempt. She counted on my love to make me blind. She forgot that love is also what taught me her every weakness.